It's Monday, the 19th of September. It's 8:45pm, and this is the first of the week, Cat's Whiskers Live. Hello and welcome to another live edition of the Cat's Whiskers podcast. My name is Jono Bullard. Joining me tonight to go back through Panthers against Devils, Steelers against Panthers, read out your tweets from the weekend, the latest on Brian McGrattan, and also the rest of the Elite League results and news is Aaron Lord.
Good evening.
And Andy Haywood.
Hello.
We'll also have post-game interviews from the game in Sheffield with Steelers coach Paul Thompson and their captain Jonathan Phillips, and they will come up a little later. But first, we'll go back to Saturday night. The Panthers taking on the Cardiff Devils in a League and Challenge Cup game at the NIC. Panthers skating away with a 2-0 victory. Chris Lawrence scoring the first goal in the first period at 16 minutes before David Clark wrapped it up with an empty net goal just 30 seconds from the end of the game. It was a very, very odd game, I think, from my opinion. Panthers outshot 29-13 and at home. So, Aaron, I'll start with you. Is that a cause for concern?
I'm going to say, well, no, because I don't believe that, every home game is going to be like that. It's surprising, like you said, really, isn't it? And a little bit of a shock because usually we outscore teams outshoot teams at home, and to have the role reversed is a little bit strange. But I don't think it's a cause for concern. Look, I still think we've got some firepower in there, and it was just. You have to respect the opposition. It was the first home game of the Elite League season, and the most important thing was that we got the 2 points.
Yeah, Andy?
Yeah, I agree. There's not going to be many games where we only have 12 shots on goal, home or away. So, you put it down as not necessarily a one-off as such, but you just put it down as a workmanlike performance, and we did what we needed. At the end of the day, it looks better on our stats that we only had 12 shots and scored 2 goals than it does 29 shots and none. It doesn't matter how many you have, it's the ones that go in.
I think a huge positive from the night was how defensively Panthers were outstanding, but didn't show a lot offensively. Again, is that another cause for concern, or do you think it was just one-off for this game, Aaron?
No, I think you have to give some, credit and respect to Cardiff, because obviously they limited us to just those shots on goal. But I don't think it's not a cause for concern for me personally. If it's those same kind of performance and that type of number-wise, shot-wise, then in 10 games' time, then yes, it will be a cause for concern, because you're not going to be able to rely on your netminder and your D for that many games without scoring, more goals than what we did on Saturday night. But I just thought, like you said, I thought defensively we were just unbelievable. And what I actually liked about our defensive performance was, at times, we played with the desperation that other teams sometimes play with against us. Like that massive PK kill, penalty kill at the start, 5-on-3.
I was going to say about that, I thought at the time, that was absolutely outstanding. And I think it's been on the highlights again, or part of it was shown again, with just the way that the defencemen were getting down in front of pucks and just not allowing Cardiff any clear shot at the net at all.
No, and we've not always seen that, to be honest. Yes, our PK for a lot of the seasons has been good, but we've never really seen that desperation. That, like you said, getting your body down low to actually completely shut off those passing lanes, and it resulted in Cardiff not really producing much on that power play.
And I think Although Cardiff, I thought, were absolutely outstanding on the forecheck all night, they gave Panthers absolutely no time at all. I think, Andy, it was the fact that they just couldn't get any clear-cut chances on Mika Vietman's net.
Yeah, I mean, he made a couple of decent saves. There was one in a glove save in the second period, in particular, that was really quite good. And I think, if I recall from my highlights, watching it back again on my highlights, I think it was the play where it looked like it hit the netting above, but play carried on, and then through a screen, Wheatman makes a fantastic glove save. But other than that, realistically, yes, they had 29 shots, but we limited them to areas where, they weren't really going to do too much damage, and they didn't. And I without wanting to jump too far ahead, obviously, to the next sort of part of the show, I'm more worried that we've conceded 7 goals than we've only had 12 shots in a game. On a personal aspect. So, I think the way we defended against Cardiff was absolutely exceptional. But obviously, like I say, it obviously wasn't that good on Sunday.
I suppose a question to both of you. Were you surprised that a team so offensively built like the Devils have been in the close season have failed to pose a threat to Wheatman's goal?
Yeah. I was really quite surprised. Not necessarily with the fact that we shut them out, or that we sort of or that we managed to cope against them, but more to the point that there were spells, and that 5-on-3 in particular, where they had really good chances of dominant puck possession in our zone. But just couldn't do anything with it, and yes, that was great defending, but it's I'd be slightly concerned as a Cardiff fan with how little, not necessarily fight, because I don't think it was a case of a fight, but I just thought they were down and they never really sort of changed too much. And I know they were dominating the game in spells, but they still weren't scoring goals, and I just thought that they perhaps lacked like a different approach to perhaps try and shake things up a bit.
I mean, Aaron, did it surprise you that they didn't pose much of a threat?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, to be honest, and I was expecting more from them, to be honest. And I guess if you're a Devils fan, on looking back on that night, you were hoping that one of those forwards that has the reputation to put up points and get you that goal, you would have been looking for them to just do a little bit of magic, and they didn't really do that. Yes, they had shed loads of puck possession, and they did some nice, plays and moved the puck around and etc. But, apart from the shot that Andy's mentioned that, Mika saved, and it was very good, I can't really remember another one that you think, a bit squeaky bum kind of, I'm glad that he saved that. And I think that was a surprise, because you're fearful of the attack that Cardiff have got. But again, this kind of is, you can flip it, can't you? You can have all that skill on paper and previous stats, but you've still got to, turn up on the night. And Cardiff didn't do that for me. And if you look at the lack of firepower that we supposedly have, it just shows you, doesn't it, that if you don't turn up on the night, you're not going to actually get the result.
Andy, I'll pose this one to you. A lot was made about Cardiff's acquisition of Patrick Bordelot. He was there on Saturday night, but I felt he was pretty anonymous. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, definitely. I think the first time that he sort of, when they were a goal down, they were chasing the game, his first sort of impression to myself was he threw quite a big hit on Jeff Waugh, but it was in the second period, I think, or the third period maybe even, and you sort of thought, should that have come a lot earlier? I was kind of expecting that he would stand out an awful lot more than he did, definitely, and not just his physical game. I kind of expected that he'd have been one of their not necessarily go-to players, because he's obviously not he's not a player that's, he's not a playmaker, and he's not, like a world-class sniper or anything like that. But, I expected that a lot more of the play would go through him, and I expected him to be a lot more dominant along the boards, especially. I didn't think we saw the best of him, that's for sure.
We mentioned Mika Vietman, and he made a couple of excellent saves. His start to the season has been nothing short of incredible, and I've got some stats here. He's faced 84 shots. He's only let in 2 goals for a goal against average of 0.6 and a save percentage of 97.6%. He has been nothing short of incredible in this early part of the season, Aaron.
Well, yeah, those stats prove that, don't they? I think we have to be realistic and say that those stats aren't going to stay like that forever. But I think he's shown last year, when fully fit, that he was, for me, the best netminder in the league. He's obviously, had the summer off and he's come back. He looks fit to me. We've obviously, signed that third netminder, and he's had some time off in games as well. Obviously up in Scotland, and this Sunday just gone. So it looks like we're potentially going to manage his game time, especially this early on in the season. So if he stays fit, for me, he'll be the best netminder in the league. And if we have the best netminder in the league, then we've got a very, very good chance of winning a lot of games. But he's probably been even better than what he was last year.
And Andy, is it crucial that Wheatman is managed in order for him to keep this level of form?
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to overwork anyone, but when it's a position that's as significant as netminder, you need to make sure you get the balance just right. You don't want to play him too often that he becomes fatigued or gets injured like we saw last year. But by the same token, you don't want him missing games out that he should be playing, so that he loses his sort of stride and his sort of streak, as it were. So it must be tough to try and get that balance right. But obviously, early doors, the way things are going at the moment, it's all hunky dory at the moment.
Okay. And also, how big a win do you think this was for Panthers so early in the season, especially considering it was for both league points and Challenge Cup points?
I think it's big. I think look, it's a title rival. It's league points. It's your first home game of the season. It's a shutout. I think it's big. It's massive. It's a big statement, to be honest. And I think people will talk about the goal stats, the shots on goal and stuff. But it's like Ant, friend of the show, tweeted in and said, shots on goal don't win games. How many times have we dominated that statement but lost? And that's true. That's why I think it's big. It's big. I think it really is big, and I'm surprised at all the negativity, to be honest. You read forums, you see social media. There's a lot of negativity about, is this how we're going to play our home games? And it's going to be a long, hard season if we're playing games like this. It's one game, and we won, and we beat a title rival. Come on, let's have that conversation in 10, 15 games if it's still the same.
Yeah, the most important column is goals scored against goals against, and we scored 2, they scored none, and that's the most important thing.
Exactly.
Like Ant, if you want to get in touch with us while we're on air, you can do. It's at CatsWhiskersTV on Twitter, and use the hashtag TCWLive, and we will try and get through as many tweets as we possibly can. Moving on to Sunday night, and Panthers travelled to the Sheffield Arena to take on the Steelers in a Challenge Cup group game. Good start for Panthers as they raced to a 2-0 lead after 3 minutes 50 through Ollie Betteridge and Alex Nikiforuk, before Levi Nelson on the power play and Colton Fretter within 7 seconds made it 2-2 going into the second period. Into the second, and Jonathan Phillips and Ben O'Connor made it 4-2 Steelers, before Alex Nikiforuk with his second on the power play made it 4-3 going into the third. Eric Lindhagen equalised early in the third, only for Steelers to pull away a bit. Andreas Valdix, Colton Fretter again, and Matthew War making it 7-4 before Ollie Betteridge grabbed his second of the game at 53-29, and that was to end the scoring. After the game, I managed to catch up with Steelers coach Paul Thompson and their captain Jonathan Phillips. Post-game, I'm joined by Steelers captain Jonathan Phillips. Jonathan, good game for you guys.
Yeah, it was. I think we felt we were in control a lot of the game, and again, we know how Nottingham, how dangerous they are whenever you give them chances. And it was it's the first time we've seen each other this season, so we kind of feeling each other out a bit. And but overall, yeah, I think we were pretty pleased.
Obviously, after the fantastic result against Salzburg last Sunday, you've now had 2 victories. How much has the momentum from that carried you forward over this weekend?
Yeah, I think after the Salzburg game and the CHL games, I mean, you guys will know from when you guys are in the CHL, you kind of, I think your speed level is right at the top, and I think right now we're kind of flying on that kind of momentum. So, we want to try and keep at that level as often as we can, as much as we can, and Tomo's doing a good job with us in practice and trying, to design our training around that to keep our speed up, and hopefully we can maintain it.
On the game tonight, I think it's fair to say that Steelers were the better team over the 60 minutes, but you never managed to actually break away. Panthers obviously taking the early 2-goal lead. You started to break away at the start of the third, but then Panthers come back again. Was that frustrating for you that you couldn't put the Panthers down?
Yeah, I think so. But then, I mean, we also know how dangerous Nottingham are. We can't give them chances, and I think we were a little sloppy. We over back-checked a few times, and they scored some very similar goals on us tonight. And that's something I think Tomo and Jerry will be addressing this week, is just kind of tighten up defensively and trying to lock a game down like that, because I think in the future that could come back to hurt us. Not a very good team, and they'll if we keep doing that this year, then we will get punished at some point.
Finally, it's your testimonial year. You've played in many, many Steelers-Panthers games. A lot of people are saying that the rivalry's not what it was. How does it feel from a player's point of view?
I think it's definitely what it was. I think it's just changed, as in the fact that the game has changed, and we can't do what we used to do. And I mean, you can't have scraps all over the place and all these scrums, because you've got to stay out the box, and Nottingham have got a fantastic power play, always have done, and they're renowned for their power play. So if we're taking penalties all night, then, and vice versa, then you're going to lose the game. So it's definitely still there. It's just in a different it's just in the modern day game instead of back in the olden days where you could hack and whack.
Jonathan, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Cheers.
With Steelers coach Paul Thompson. Paul, you must be very happy with that result.
Well, any time you can put 7 past the Panthers and come away with the 2 points, you got to be happy. And I thought, yeah, we got to tighten up a bit. I think we gifted some goals tonight, and the Panthers, didn't really go away until the third period. But I thought it was a dominant performance by my group tonight.
Was it getting frustrating because I think it's fair to say you dominated the game for 60 minutes, but you couldn't actually pull away? Maybe start of the third, but then Panthers came back again. Was that a source of frustration for you? Yeah,
I mean, you go 2-0 down, and really, the first time they're in our end zone, they throw 2 pucks to the net, and we don't tighten up. And, Nottingham players are in scoring areas and rebounds or whatever, drop on sticks, and you think, here we go. But, we knew, by the first 6 or 7 shifts, we really did try and suffocate Nottingham and get on them early, and so we worked our way back in. But you're right, even though the dominance was there, and it was there, we didn't really pull away to the third period. But it's a 60-minute game, you've got to do it at some point, and we did it when it mattered.
The fantastic result against Salzburg last Sunday, you've had 2 wins since then. Has the momentum from that helped carried you over the line a bit?
I think winning full stop helps. We have a team that wants to pressure and wants to play like you saw today. We don't want to give up so much the other end, but if it meant beating the Panthers 7-5 every week, every game this season, I'd take that right now. But we know that's not going to be the case. We got a tough game in Nottingham next Saturday. We know that. But we want to keep this thing going. We've won 3 in a row, 4 in a row with the CHL game, and we want to keep that momentum going the right way, because winning does cause momentum, positive momentum.
So there you heard from Coach Paul Thompson and Captain Jonathan Phillips. And just once again, we'd like to say thank you very much to the Steelers for allowing Jono access to interview them. We appreciate it very, very much. So, Jono, you asked the question to Paul Thompson and Jonathan Phillips, so I'm going to ask you it. Obviously, despite dominating, I'll get it right,
Put your teeth back
Sheffield, I will do, yeah. Sheffield couldn't pull away, so as Paul Thompson mentioned, a little bit of frustration for them in that. Is that a positive?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, despite the scoreline, conceding 7 is never good, but we were never really out of the game. Possibly when they went 7-4 ahead, you thought, right, that's it. But then Ollie Betteridge got that goal with 6.5 minutes to go, and you thought, maybe. I mean, Sheffield dominated the game. There's no two ways about it. They were the better team. They dominated for most of it. However, we didn't give up, put in a lot of effort, and we were there or thereabouts. They never really managed to pull away from us until that sort of 3-goal stretch in the third period. So yes, I think that is a positive. Going there and scoring 5 goals is good.
It is. Andy, as you mentioned earlier, and as the title of tonight's podcast says, the sublime to the ridiculous. So Panthers conceding 7, is that a worry?
It's more of a worry than us only having 12 shots and scoring 2. Definitely. I don't think it's a cause for concern in the sense that we should be worried that we're going to be conceding 7 goals every game. Much like I don't think it's going to be a cause for concern that we're only taking 12 shots every game. It's not a one-off, because I'm sure it will probably happen at some point. We will get blown out by somebody else. But realistically, after watching what we saw on Saturday, if you were to tell me that we were going to go away from home and concede 7, I would have laughed at you and said, not a chance. Defensively, we are incredibly sound. But it's just about finding that balance. And like I say, we will get beat heavily again. Towards, might be next weekend, might be the last weekend. Who knows? But at some point, we will get another pasting. But at the same time, I don't think it's overly a cause for concern so early on. I think it's just one of them games, isn't it? Really, they happen from time to time, and so long as they don't happen often, and so long as we sort out our mistakes and learn from them and tighten up, then everything will be good again.
I mean, Jono, for you, obviously being there and watching it live, was it a worry for you to see all those goals go in and see the Panthers concede that many? Yeah,
it was a bit. I mean, a lot of people were having a go at Henry Passel for letting so many in, and apparently that is how you pronounce his name. But the thing was that there was one particular goal that really, really annoyed me, and that was Colton Fretter's second. He was just given all the time and space to go behind the net, come back in front and put it top shelf on his backhand. I mean, it was a great finish, but there was absolutely no challenge to him, and I was just wanted somebody to go in and take the body, but nobody went near him, and that was really, really frustrating. And I think it was at that point the heads went down a bit. And we wasn't going to come back from that, especially after we worked so hard to get back into the game at 4-4 all. One thing I do want to say is Eric Lindhagen. I think he was excellent last night. He scored the goal. He was everywhere. He's quick. He was playing defence. He was playing up front. I think we found a real gem there.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. Let's look at a few positives from that game, and Alex Nikiforuk scoring a couple of goals. Obviously, Andy, a lot of people talking about him, in the bunkers afterwards. I was having a few conversations with people about the gentleman, and it's good to see him actually getting on the score sheet, because he has been brought in here to get points, hasn't he?
Yeah, it was. It was good to see. Obviously, we spoke a little bit after the game on Saturday, and I sort of, the podcast last week, I think it was, sort of tipped him that he could potentially be our top point scorer. And on Saturday, I thought he looked very small and very ineffective, apart from that one shot in the third period, but absolutely cannoned off the post, to be fair to him. But obviously, he's done what he's paid for on the Sunday. And there's been flashes of it, and I hope that we see an awful lot more of that from him. And obviously, I hope that it's the start of a bit of a run for him, because he certainly looks like he's got the he's got the tools. It's just trying to get him in the right areas and sort of using them, basically.
And Jono, another person scoring a couple of goals as well as getting the man of the match was Ollie Betteridge. Do you think he's making the most of his increased ice time that he's obviously getting this season? And do you think is he showing his potential?
Yeah, I think he is. I think he deserves a chance, because let's face it, he didn't get much of one last season after probably November, and he's taken his chance. He scored a couple of goals last night, right place at the right time to put the puck in the net, and hopefully his development will continue. He's still only a young lad, and I think he does have the potential to be one of the better Brits, certainly on our roster, but maybe in the league as well. And I just hope he still continues to get the chance, and he continues his progression and getting amongst the points. But yeah, I'm very, very pleased with the way he started the season, definitely.
And just to end this little segment on the game, yes, the Steelers won. They scored 7, but as we've mentioned, they also conceded 5. I mean, Jono, do you think the Steelers have to worry with the amount of goals that they are actually conceding? And I know you've got the stats for their world-class netminder as well.
Yeah, they've played 7 competitive games now. 4 of them obviously were Champions Hockey League, and they conceded 8 in Salzburg. However, in 7 competitive games, they've conceded 32 goals. Of the 3 Challenge Cup games that they played, they've conceded 12 goals for a goals against average of 4. And Mustakovs is on a save percentage of only 86%. And when I spoke to Paul Thompson last night, he one of the things he said, and he said it a couple of times, we need to tighten up, because I think their defence is looking very, very lax at the minute. And that it could be a problem for them as they go through the season. Mustakovs was lauded the last time he was here, but I felt that he gave away far too many rebounds. But the defence around him cleared them away, and he had a very strong defence in front of him. This season, I'm not so sure he's got as strong a defence in front of him. So he's giving away the rebounds and the people on the spot to put the puck away. Both Betteridge goals and the first of Nicky Farrock's last night was exactly because of that. The rebound came out, empty net, bang, thank you very much. So I think that's something they are going to have to work on if they are to win a third league title, because he can't go through the season with that sort of goals against average and save percentage, because they will certainly lose more than they win.
Okie dokie. I mean, just very quickly on that, Andy, just to have sort of the final word on this segment. Netminders, yes, they'll get the stats like Jono's just said for the Moose, but you really do have to have your defence working with you as a netminder, don't you? Because like Jono says, and we've seen it previously in seasons that have literally just gone past. You think back to Modic, offered a lot of rebounds up. So the D really do have to support the Moose and as netminders in general.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen in the not too distant past the effects of having a netminder with a slightly different style to the one that we originally signed, and I mean, one of the sort of main ones I sort of think of was when we signed Michelle Robinson from Edinburgh, where he was conceding an awful lot of goals and playing for Edinburgh, where he didn't have the support in defence that he had here. But then when he came here, he was a relatively solid goalie. And it's having a very good netminder is one thing, but you also have to have a very good defence that know how to play around him, and it's that they've got to sort of get used to. They've got to get used to playing with Mustakovs, and they've got to get used to protecting him in the way that he needs to be protected. So obviously, if he's giving out rebounds in the slot, they're going to need a big, strong, stay-at-home defenseman to basically stand by that crease and make sure that he's the first one to the loose pucks. So if that's the case that we've got to go down, then that's what we're going to have to do realistically. But he's a decent netminder. Don't get me wrong. I certainly don't think he's terrible. But they've got to know how to sort of play defence with him, because he does give out rebounds, as we found out in his first season when I think it was Lakovic put that game winner in overtime in the playoffs that year. And obviously, again, like Jono's already pointed out, 3 of the goals over this Sunday out of the 5 were rebound goals. And, they've got to work a way around that and find what's best for them.
Just a tweet we've had from Matthew Dodd. He says, can you really compare the 2 games over the weekend with having the 2 different netminders in? I suppose that's difficult. And of course, the team always have to change their style, I suppose, depending on the netminder that they are that he's starting. Aaron, do you think that's something that probably needs to be taken into account?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if you said, Mika's stats earlier, I know, and I said earlier that we've obviously managed Mika's time so far this season. Look, I still, Wiekman is our number 1, and I expect him to start playing, both games of a weekend if he's fully fit. So, I don't think Packle, or however we're supposed to pronounce it, will play as many games as he has been doing now. And I think we have to take that into consideration. He's only 21. He isn't a number 1 at the moment, but I'm pretty sure he's going to become a very, very good netminder, probably better than this league usually gets. So I think we have to kind of put things into perspective when talking about those 2 netminders and the games that they've played in.
Okay. A few of the tweets that received from you over the past day or so about the weekend. Red Ends, Ian Pigeon says, a work in progress. Need to stop playing the trap and start taking the game to teams. Panthers Banter, he says, good to see Nicky Furrock get up and running. I think Saturday's win has been very underrated. Lindhagen looks a gem of a signing, which I can only agree with. I think he's been superb. Amy Jean Waghorn, she says, Nicky Furrock seems to be starting to find form. Ollie Betteridge showing his potential, and Mika was great on Saturday. DJ Viles, he says, we can't play like we did versus Devils every week and get away with a win though. My nerves wouldn't stand it either. I think I'm very much of the I don't care as long as we win. And Tina has been in touch. Unfortunately, she can't be on the show this week due to other commitments, but she says 23 shots on Wiekman on Saturday versus 37 on Passel on Sunday tells a story for the Panthers defensively. However, Steelers' shots on goal so far are 39 versus the Storm, 34 versus the Blaze, and 43 versus the Panthers. They are getting the shots through. And I think that's a fair point, because the Steelers do look very, very offensively sound. They look very good going forward. Thank you very much for the tweets that you sent in to us, and we will ask for some more after next weekend's game, so please keep them coming in. Another bit of Panthers news before we move on to the rest of the Elite League in the final part of the show. Brian McGrattan's paperwork is with the authorities, but the wording of the press releases rang some alarm bells, especially this quote: we're crossing our fingers that we'll get a quick answer and that answer will be positive, and then his passport will be sent back to him. I mean, we've been talking about this on WhatsApp throughout today. I mean, Andy, that is quite a strange statement.
Yeah, it is for me, because you don't see it for anybody else. And don't get me wrong, there is always that chance that a visa could be denied. For whatever reason, there's always that chance. At the end of the day, it's a foreign national coming to earn a living in our country. So obviously there's a lot of red tape that has to be done. But we never see that on any other press release. And it sort of got me wondering or thinking if perhaps it's not such a done deal after all. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think, if he turns up in the middle of this week or, beginning of next week, then no one will ever make anything of that quote. But I just think the way that it's been worded just sort of makes people wonder. And, it might be to get people talking, who knows? But I just think it's slightly, not necessarily concerning, but it's certainly got people talking about, is McGrattan actually going to come? I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, I would hope so too. I mean, I was talking to Elaine Buck, who listens to the show, in the interval yesterday, and we were saying the team just seems to be missing something, and we were both saying we really, really hope that McGrattan is what we are missing. And I really do think that him, when he gets here, it'll be a huge boost to the team. I am really looking forward to seeing him now, and I really, really, really hope that the wording of that press release was just as it was, and it's not for anything more sinister, shall we say. Moving on to the rest of the Elite League results and news. So on Saturday, Clan against the Storm in the Elite League. Storm taking a 2-1 win at the Braehead Arena, and then Clan again losing on Sunday night in the Challenge Cup to the Edinburgh Capitals at Murrayfield. I mean, Aaron, they are in a precarious position at the minute. No wins at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the best of starts for the Clan at all, really. And I was listening to the interview that they did after the Panthers game when we travelled up there the other weekend, and Ryan Finnerty was saying that he knows he's got a good group. There's no need to panic, etc. They need to work on a few things, but he knows it's going to come good, etc. And just a bit of patience from everybody. But fans only stay patient for so long, don't they? And they need to obviously see a result from somewhere, and the longer that goes on and that result doesn't come, then the more people will get nervous, the more voices will start saying stuff, etc. So the sooner the Clan can get a W on the board, I think it'll just relieve a lot of pressure that will keep on building the longer that winless streak goes on.
Yeah. The Manchester Storm, though, some great form. We've mentioned the win over Clan. They followed that up with a win over the Coventry Blaze in the Challenge Cup at the Storm Shelter on Sunday night. Andy, the Storm started very, very, very well.
They certainly have, and I think it's, on the whole, I think it's not only great for them, obviously, I think it's also very good for the league. The fact that they are performing so well, and I think they raised a few eyebrows in the off-season with some of their acquisitions. I think they've signed some really good players, and they had a couple of really good players last year, and they've managed to keep hold of the majority of them. And long may it continue, so long as it's not when we play.
Five's early season form comes to a bit of a grinding halt. They lost 6-3 at home to the Dundee Stars in the Challenge Cup, and again in the Challenge Cup on Sunday. In the Elite League on Sunday, losing to the Cardiff Devils 6-1 at Ice Arena, Wales. Devils bouncing back from the Saturday defeat against the Panthers. And Aaron, it's a bit of a shame for Fife because they started really well.
Yeah, they have, unfortunately, and one of those came against us. But I think it shows you, doesn't it, though, that this Elite League, we say it every season, but it really is getting tougher and tougher to get on, a win streak, and when you do, you really have to give credit to that team. But every team now can beat that team on any given day. I know it's a cliche and we say it every year, but I think look, the Stars are capable of doing that to any team, and you're talking about the Devils, who wouldn't have been very happy with the Saturday result, which we've already gone through, at home, you know, in their new arena, and they would have been wanting to put a show on for their fans. And unfortunately, the Flyers just caught the brunt of that.
And the Giants bounced back with 2 wins, and Sunday was also their 1,000th competitive game, so congratulations to them for that. They beat the Edinburgh Capitals at the SSE Arena 3-1 on Saturday, and followed that up with a 5-3 victory in Dundee against the Stars on Sunday. They were both Challenge Cup games, and Giants starting to find a little bit of form at the right time, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the right time to find a bit of form, isn't it? And they certainly are at the moment. And, you know, they've got a very good team. They've got, you know, very good facilities, and you know, they don't really want for much. And so you always expect them to be there or thereabouts. And I think realistically, you could probably say that the last couple of seasons they've not sort of lived up to it so much. You know, I always expect Belfast to be one of the top 3, probably even the top 2 every season. And you know, I don't think this season's any different. I think with the players that they've got, I kind of expect them to be, you know, right in the mix towards the end. And you know, results like what they've had this weekend are the way forward.
Okay, and I think we will leave it there for today. Just a couple of messages before we finish. And that Panthers Travel do have spaces left for the trip to Coventry on Sunday. If you email them, travel@panthers.co.uk, the cost is £10 plus the price of your match ticket. We will be back on Wednesday with our Ask TCW podcast, so please send questions in to us. You can do that via Twitter @CatsWhiskersTV. Use the hashtag AskTCW. On Facebook, on our page there, or the various fan groups that we will put in a message on there for questions. Our thread on the Cage Forum, or you can email them to us, tcwonlinetv@gmail.com. We are hoping to get a guest panellist with us on Wednesday, so stay tuned for that, and we will announce that if and when it happens. However, all that remains to say is thank you very much for listening to the live podcast tonight, and also thank you very much to Andy Haywood.
No worries at all, anytime.
And Aaron Lord.
Absolute pleasure.
As I say, we will be back on Wednesday with the Ask TCW podcast at 8:45pm live. Until then, thanks very much for listening once again, and we'll see you then. Goodbye.